Hello, everybody, and welcome to Rocket Lasso Live, episode 18 of season 7. And today is the season finale of Rocket Lasso Live. Of course, we will be back again for season 8, so no worries there. But there is the big break that goes in between as the winter comes along. But mostly, the trigger for this is always half-res is less than a month away, and that eats up a lot of time. And getting the live stream going eats up a lot of time. Prepping for it, actually doing it, and then doing all the editing and posting of that all takes up most of the day. So anyway, it's going to be an exciting episode. I mentioned briefly earlier, but for anybody who is just tuning in on live on Twitch or YouTube, please participate in the chat. And that's just for fun. That's not doing any like special engagement or anything. It just goes to the way I like to do the Rocket Lasso plugin giveaways that we always do on the finale. I'll probably be doing 2 of them, right? One at the halfway point and one at the end. Is going to be by copy and pasting the entire chat window into a randomizer, and whichever name comes out on top is going to be the winner. So you can think of it like every time you are participating in the chat, the more that you have chances to win a one of any Rocket Lasso plugin. But I actually do have quite a bit of different news today. So we're going to cover a bunch of different things. Some things that are pretty exciting, some things I just want to hint at. I mean, the first thing to mention, let me pop this open. I prepped a window, I think. Nope, I've lost the window. Where'd I put that window? 1 second. There's that window. Oh, I had this prepped. I've got too many tabs. That's the problem. Capsules. Maybe it's Firefox. I think it is, but not that window. Not that window. Not that window. Not that window. Yes, that window. Okay, pop this open. Boom. And switch on over to the tower. So desktop camera. Boom. Okay, so first of all, like I said, half-res is going to be my giant distraction for the next month up until September 12th. So go ahead and head on over to halfres.com if you want to be able to come to this event in Chicago. If you're anywhere in the Midwest, Chicagoland area, this is an excellent event to come and hang out. Or if you're just looking for an excuse to come visit Chicago, this is a good chance to do it. It's an event that I've been helping. Well, I mean, I'm one of the original people who came up with the idea to do it. And we've been doing this is going to be half-res 12, actually. So for 12 different events, actually 13, because after COVID, we did a quarter res as we all got back in. But anyway, tickets are available. We got lots of really cool speakers. Donnie Bauer is going to be our main speaker. And then we've got Kevin from Odd Beast. That's going to be exciting. EJ is going to be hosting the creative sessions. And these are like special educational presentations from Untitled Army and Casey and Elijah. So this is going to be really exciting. We got a whole schedule and images and tickets and all of our sponsors. Like, yep, it's Maxon does an amazing job of sponsoring us every year, and like all these different people are helping us put this together. And the important thing to note is that here's the team that puts it together, and this is entirely volunteer. None of us make any money from this. It's just an event that we think is cool to exist, and so we put a lot of work into making it happen. So and yeah, if anybody knows anybody who's interested in sponsoring half-res and getting your logo kind of put up everywhere in the event, you can scroll to the bottom and hit sponsor half-res. That'd be cool too. So anyway, that is one bit of information. Let me go and jump back over to the camera and then mention the next couple things. So we're going to be taking questions from everybody. So if you have any questions for Cinema 4D, any projects, any cool inspirational things. If you're on Twitch, you can put a link in there. If you're on YouTube, you got to type it out or you have to go join over on Twitch. By the way, following on Twitch, you can do for free just by signing up on Twitch. But the best part about following somebody on Twitch is it doesn't cost any money and you get an automatic email every time the person goes live. So that's one of the best benefits of Twitch. And if you're not on the Rocket Lasso Slack channel, I guess I should link that. Let's be efficient. So we might have extra people here who aren't usually here. So I'm going to go and pop open rocketlasso.com. Let's switch back over to here. So if you head on over to rocketlasso.com and you can click on the community page at any point, and in the community page, you're going to see join us on Slack, and you click this sign me up button, and then you can join the Rocket Lasso Slack channel where you also can get announcements of when I'm going live. So that's pretty cool. I'll put a link for this in the chat as well. So if you're not already in there, you should totally go and jump in there. Miguel, thanks. Yeah, I think the half-res site is looking pretty awesome. Mostly put together by my buddy Amador. But we got some other people that have been working on it as well. Next year, I'm super excited because we're going to have extra help, and we might be able to bring back like the faces, like everybody's attending, like their face can appear, and you can put a little message. So it's super fun. We haven't been able to do that in a while. Anyway, couple other little topics I wanted to jump into. One thing I'm going to do today, as you start getting your links together, to do questions, because of course we can't tackle cool Cinema 4D questions if you don't ask cool Cinema 4D questions. Um, is I'm going to give a preview of one of our upcoming plugins today. So we won't spend too long on it because there's definitely more work to go. It's entirely possible we'll bump into a bug or a crash because it is not a complete plugin yet. But I just want to give a little tease of that. And it's a simple one. It's an intentionally simple tool. It's only one of 4 different tools that we're working on right now. So that'll be exciting to show off. Another thing that this is, I want to see what people's opinions is here as far as the way I should use and address it. But let me switch back over here. And something that's very exciting is I have been chosen to be a Dell Technologies and NVIDIA ambassador. And what that means is I'm going to be getting a brand new, very powerful PC tower. So I'm going to have a very powerful computer coming up soon. And the computer is going to be containing one of the new Blackwell 6000 NVIDIA cards. And this thing is crazy. And it's going to be the first time I'm going to have like some really high end hardware for like 9 or 10 years now. This thing's got like 96 gigs of memory, like insane. And just overall, it's going to be like an amazing computer. I don't have all the specs yet. I don't have the machine. I might get the machine mid-September, so it'll be ready for the next season. Now, I wanted to throw out a couple things. It's going to be really cool. I'm super excited, and I think it's going to have a lot of really cool ramifications for the live stream because we'll be able to tackle bigger questions, maybe get more renders out during a live stream, do crazier simulations during a live stream. Now, I want to do all of this in the context that I understand that this machine I'm getting is going to be an enterprise machine. This is not your casual like home gaming computer. So with it being an enterprise machine, I always want to be keeping that in mind during tutorials and during any live streams or anything that that the hardware I'm running is not necessarily the way everything's going to work. I'm going to want to make sure that the plugins I design are still running off of like reasonable hardware and whatnot. But as far as us like doing water simulations, doing smoke simulations, so many different things that during a live stream, I'm always like, oh, we have to make it very small and very simple during the live stream. I'm going to be able to make those be way beefier, way crazier. So I'm like really, really excited about it. It's going to be the Dell Max, the Dell Pro Max Tower T2. It's going to be like the super high end version of it. So super excited about that. And then I was actually just watching this video. This guy does a pretty cool breakdown of some of the stuff that's going to be there and the different options. So yeah, very excited. And this is my first time doing an experiment with being kind of working with any particular brand on anything. So being a Dell Technologies and NVIDIA ambassador, brand new thing, kind of an experiment for me. Definitely a little bit inspired by Winbush, who's always doing like really cool stuff with sponsors and getting cool hardware, which in theory enables him to do cooler, crazier work and show more stuff off to more people. So anyway, that's my goal here. We'll see how that entire process goes, but I am very, very excited. That's pretty huge. And hopefully everybody here gets to benefit from it. So I'm going to switch back over to the camera and we're going to start scrolling through some of the comments and see if people have questions. Is going to be the most important thing. Evolve San Martin. I don't know the processor yet. I'm waiting for the spec sheet of the entire machine, and when I do, I'm going to be doing some like posts and whatnot. I'm not going to get all spammy with it, but people always want to know what hardware I'm running. So once I know everything that's in it, I will let everyone know. But yeah, and yeah, Garcia, I was watching a video and it's like how it compares to like the 5090. I mean, keep in mind the tower I was running off of had two 1080s. So essentially up until I had this laptop, I was running off a machine with two 1080. So I'm like 9 years out of date. So this is going to be a huge boost for me. And I mean, it goes to the laptop I'm running now is like 10 times faster than my current tower. And I'm currently live streaming off of the tower. The one machine pipes into the other one, which is good because that means if I crash on one machine, the whole machine goes down, the stream doesn't crash. That's been a big benefit. But the videos I was watching was saying that it's like, oh yeah, there's like 10% increases over the 5090, and yeah, to do this and to do that, and for rendering and for simulation and for AI and like lots of different layers there. So Let's see. Oh, Paratodos is asking what model of camera I use for my live stream, and I'm actually using a Sony A6000 like camera. But I bought a special external card so I can pipe out from the viewport of that and use it. I bought that to go do like photography stuff, and I was doing it. I was doing photo stuff so infrequently that I was like, oh, that might make for a kind of a cool, like really nice depth of field camera. So it's a proper like $500 photography camera that I just happen to pipe into the machine for fun. Um, so yeah, all that's super exciting. I might have like, oh, there's a lot of messages, so it might, oh, 13 times faster, like, oh, 13% faster, not 13 times. um, but it's definitely gonna be 13 times faster than my old machine. But yeah, start getting those questions together. I know we're kind of scrubbing past them with all the different messages. Hope everybody is doing well, and sad to say it's the last episode of the season, but it'll be back again. Tom does have a question. And actually, I'd like to jump into a question before I show off a preview of one of our upcoming plugins. But let's see what Tom is asking. Everybody else start getting more questions in there because we need them. Tom says, is it possible to make a flock of birds using the particle system where the speed of the wing flaps is controlled by the particle velocity? Perhaps some sort of Olympic retiming? That is an excellent question. I do not necessarily know the answer one way or the other. Let's jump on over here. Here's the laptop I'm on, and we are in the newest version of Cinema. And I do not know the answer to this question, so it's going to be really exciting to see if we can figure it out. Because I have an idea of how to do it, but I haven't specifically done it. So we're going to make the worst bird in the world. Actually, I highly doubt that there's a bird in the asset browser. But let's see if there's some sort of bird. No, there's no bird, but let's see if there's some sort of plane. I think there's a slightly higher chance. Okay, I'm going to grab a plane, toy plane, and it's not Redshift, so we can't count on the material here. But here's a toy plane. It's pretty tiny. That's all good. And let me, okay, yeah, it's got good subdivisions here. So here's what I'm thinking. Why don't we, I'm going to grab this part of the plane and take it out. I want everything to run as quick as possible. So are there any subdivision surfaces? No, it's all baked down, so that's fine. I'll take the entire thing, throw it into a connect object. Don't worry about welding. So we'll turn that off, make that editable. And now we've got two pieces of geometry, which I'll put inside of this null to be our plane. And we're going to make these wings flap. So that's why I split this out as a separate part, is I'm going to grab the wing and let's set this to X plus, fit to parent, set it to half of whatever the big width is, or actually I'm just going to eyeball it. So we're going to scoot this to be about the center. And we're going to, sensitive here. The whole thing might be really tiny right now, so I might make it larger. So we've got a wing, and I want to keyframe it a few times. Let's grab the strength and pull it, and you can see, ooh, why is there double of the wing? I must have duplicated. I'll grab that UW, select that, delete. Okay, now it's just the one we have. So I've got the wing. I'm going to say keep Y length, change this to be 90 degrees. And now essentially we're going to like make it flap like that. So that will be our bird. We'll keep it real simple. Let's push this down to the extreme and keyframe. So we'll keyframe that right there. And we'll go forward 10 frames. And actually, we'll go forward 15 frames, and I'll switch this to be a positive number. It goes up. Cool. And then presumably if we want to loop, there might be a ping pong option, but I'm just going to make it loop. So here's a cool trick if you didn't know. If I scrub my timeline back to 0, and then you hold the Alt or Option key if you're on a Mac, I can grab the timeline and scrub it, and you can see my viewport's not refreshing right now. So I can drop this to, I can drag it to 30, and then record my keyframe again. And now you see I was able to essentially copy the first keyframe to that keyframe. But you could do that with a bunch of different objects. But now you see we've got kind of a very simple loop for the flap right there. The plan for me right now is to copy this bend, flip it around 180, and then grab the coordinate and say positive. And now we got two of them. And in theory, we've got this lovely single flap. Now we'll have to see if this stuff loops because I haven't done this in a little while, but let's immediately put this to a cloner. And let me think how do I have to manually loop it? Because you see my animation mode is play, but I could say my animation mode is loop. Let's just do it step by step. Here I'm currently creating a clone. Actually, it's really tiny. Actually, we're going to be doing tiny clones, so I'll make it a little bit bigger, but that's fine that they're a little bit small. So we are cloning. If I hit play, you see it flaps once and then it's done. If I switch this, and every timeline it'll loop. If we go with the transform and we say animation mode loop, then now you see it goes continuously because it's based on the time track. It's not based on the specific the timeline. You see that you see how these are highlighted and they kind of end at 90. So it knows to like go back to the beginning and then loop its way through. So that is giving us this automatic looping animation. So okay, that's cool. That's pretty much exactly what I wanted for the basics of that. So let's hide that. Let's give this a save, and I will jump this to episode 18, scene files, and then we'll jump on over to, let's see, this will be number 1A, flapping particles. And let's turn on the little SSAO. Don't know if we'll see it because it's really tiny. Okay, so that's the cloner part. I need to know if that was working. Now we can work on, I might turn that off just for the distraction. We need to work on some flocking here. Honestly, I don't know that we need to go too crazy. I might make just a big cluster of birds and let's just throw some turbulence at them and then turn on some flocking behaviors. And although let's actually do this step by step. I think let's immediately find out if this flapping idea is going to work. So here's our emitter, and we will be emitting a constant amount of them. And under output, actually under properties, I really want output to be the last tab. Under properties, under speed, I'm going to go enable variation, and we're going to give this a massive amount of variation. So I'm going to say a speed of 500 and a variation of 500. So essentially, we could have things going almost zero, and we should have things that can go like crazy fast. So it has to initialize, send the scene over to the GPU. And once that initializes, then it should start working way quicker. So now we can see, okay, a big burst of particles. We got some speedy ones, and you can definitely see we've got some super slow ones. So pretty much exactly what we want. I am guessing that this plane is probably facing the wrong direction. So let's grab this cloner, activate it. I want to clone onto an object. The object will be the particle group. And now you see we got all these planes, but it is spun around incorrectly. So I'll just grab my axis tool, R for rotate, hold down shift, spin it around exactly 180. So they're now going the correct direction. All right. Now, I don't know for sure, but I imagine, and there's probably too many particles for us to see this super clearly. So I'll drop this down to 10. If I were to hit play right now and hit go, let's see, I imagine they're going to be flying at different speeds, but the wings aren't changing how fast they're flapping. They're all flapping at the same speed. Pretty funny, actually. I'm glad we went with a plane. Okay, now under the cloner, let's see. Oh, okay, so look, map animation to the age and then the distance. So that's interesting. Let's say we're mapping it to the distance. So the distance per second. And let's hit play. Oh, look at that. Look at this little guy up there flapping really fast. And then look at these slow ones flapping slow. So now based on the speed, just as simple as that, we made sure the animation looked good. And now just by turning on distance, we can now set the flapping to different speeds. So the fast ones are fast. And then the slow ones, very, very slow. So simple as that. Now, in theory, we could map it to the age and do different things with the age, we could ramp the age of it and control it very kind of artistically that way. But yeah, very direct control over that. So, okay, now that we know that that's working, let's temporarily turn off the cloner and let's get some flocking going. Just push it a little bit further for fun. So I'm thinking we'll make a big sphere. We're going to make this relatively large. So we've got a big sphere. We're going to set it to a shot, and we're going to make 1,000 planes right at the same time. I'm going to say that the speed almost doesn't matter. I'm going to say 50. So they're all moving the same speed to start out with. So there'll suddenly be a burst. They'll all be flying the same direction. And, actually, they all fly outward right now. We could say it's just based on the axis. And I think they'll all fly forward. Yeah, so they all fly forward. We can reactivate this. I think that, they're all moving the same speed. So you see they're identical. And honestly, because if we're doing the speed, we might not be able to turn on multi-instance, but this seems to be running well enough. Let me hit Alt-V HUD frames per second. And you see that we're still running at about 30 frames a second. A little bit more, so we got some wiggle room. So let's do, okay, a couple important things. Let's immediately turn on a turbulence. So we've got this big old turbulence, and I want it to be, let's say it's pretty strong. It might be too strong. And we're on a relatively small scale here. You see there's a cube. So I think a turbulence, I'm going to make it relatively large. Yeah, I'll just do a scale of 100. And let's just see what kind of movement we're getting here. So yeah, you see actually this is not nowhere near big enough. So you can see everything's kind of flapping in its own direction all over the place. I'm going to set 1,000 because generally speaking, yeah, there we go. There's a little bit more of what I want. You can see everything sort of moving like somewhat clustered. The strength is quite high, so I'm going to lower that a little bit. And I might, and turbulence is constantly adding in more and more and more velocity. So let's also create a friction. So this friction is constantly going to be draining out some of the velocity. Now, I'm not sure what a good number is. I'm going to go overboard. Yeah, you see, if I go to 100, it's too much. So I think about 10 is going to be a pretty good number. It's hiccuping right now. All I did was go to type. I've been saving often, so if we did crash for some reason, we won't have lost much. But yeah, I'm not sure why it doesn't like what I just did. So a pretty clean scene right now. Escape, 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 escape. Come on. Come on. It might be dead. Might be dead. We'll have lost a little bit. I don't think it's waking up. Sadly, it must die. Last chance. Nope, it's not. Reopen. It's doing that thing. Well, it takes a second for it to close all the way, but yeah, Cinema doesn't always want to open on the first click. Yeah, Badger, that won't happen on the new PC. Let's see. Okay, cool. We're back. Flapping particles. How much did we lose? It's waking up. Okay. Okay, we lost the spherical emitter. So go back to about 1,000. Boop, boop, boop. Shot. Properties. No variation. 50 speed. Particle layout. Turbulence. What scale did I eventually set it to? Was it 200, 300? I'm going to try 300. Put this up to 55. Make the friction. We are putting the friction back to 10. Under cloner, we're already on distance, so that's fine. I will save this as immediately as another file and just make sure I'm saving more often. Now, right now, I'm not cloning out the particles, and it's going to take that initialize again, so we have to send it all out. But yeah, now we got these particles. You see them kind of swirling around, doing their thing. For purposes of viewing, I'm going to make them way larger. And I think I had originally said we're going to do 1,000 of them. I forgot to put that up to 1,000. Burst of 1,000. And you can see some uniformity in the way they're moving. So this must have been up at like about 500. And now you see kind of these clustered swirls moving around. Okay, that's cool. Now I want to make a spherical. Well, I just want to make an attractor. I was going to do a spherify fall off, but now we can make this attractor. Let's start cranking up the strength here higher and higher. And I want to see, I'm going to keep in, well, right now, do you see how it's like really strong in the center and not strong everywhere else? I'm going to set this to be a constant. And now suddenly you see everything's pulling to the center. I love that they added that setting in. I'm going to lower this down to like 100. And actually, I'm going to lower this down to 10. So back to the original. Yeah, so that's enough that generally speaking is trying to pull stuff near the center. Now here's what I'd actually like to do. I'm going to set this up to 25, which is probably enough that most of these are going to start getting pulled in quite a bit. But then we could go into the fields and give it a spherical fall off. And if I start scaling this up, then anything that gets, so right here, it's full strength here and they start falling off. But I want the opposite. So under my spherical fall off, under remapping, I'll say invert. So now inside of this bright circle, this bright sphere, everything's free to move around however it wants. As they drift further and further away, they're going to have more attraction to get pulled back towards the center. So in theory, nothing can get too far away. I want to keep everything kind of centralized here, just for our demo purposes. And yeah, immediately I see them getting pulled back, and I could increase or decrease the strength as I see fit. But I think that's going to work pretty well. Let's visually hide that spherical fall off. And I might even hide the emitter just so that we're only seeing our particles. And let's rewind, hit save. Okay, cool. Now, let's activate our cloner. So now these become the little planes. And we'll drop this back down to being tiny. So now we've got the planes. And they're flying around, and we already know they're going to be taking on the speed. But right now, they're flapping around doing their thing, which is pretty cool. But we need them to take on the direction that they're moving, which right now they're just facing whatever their initial direction was. So there is another modifier, and let's clean these up. I'm going to drop these inside the group below. And you see the cloner is going to be the last thing. So think about the order of operations. This creates the particles. Here are the particles being modified by these modifiers, and then the cloner clones onto the result. So it's a good idea to keep your objects in kind of the order of operation. Now, let's see. I don't do the directional stuff too often. We have not rotation. We want yeah, look is the one we want. So I'm gonna say after all this other stuff happens, I want it to align somehow. How do I want it to align? And right now it actually defaults to it. It aligns to the forward vector of the velocity direction. So that just means whatever direction we're aiming, that's where it's going to be set. Now you do have this mix animation, which is actually pretty handy. We'll talk about that in a moment. But if I play, you see all those just snapped, and they're now perfectly aiming in the direction that particular particle is flying. So all these will be flapping in the correct direction, which looks amazing. Okay, so now we've got these flowing around. Thanks to just the turbulence, is kind of giving us a little bit of flocking-ish looking animation. But now let's go and make it more properly flocking. I hit save again by putting in a flock. So we've got flocking here. I don't use this one too often. I will put it before the look because, I always want it to be facing forward after all the movement happens. So we've got a strength, we've got the cohesion, we've got the separation. So it's like, how far apart from each other do they start attracting each other? And then how far apart do we want them to be from each other initially? Now, just for the sake of verifying, this is all based on a radius. So let's make a sphere and shrink this down. And you can see that that's, the size of one of our planes is around 50 radius. But how far do we want them to stay apart from each other? I think probably a little bit more than that. So I'm just going to use this as an eyeball. Actually, I would typically make this be a spline of some sort so I can not have it be visually in my way, but I can still take this and quickly be like, I don't want anything getting too much closer than that. So you see, we're actually right around 100. So my flocking on my separation strength, I'm going to say 100. Oops, that's a strength. Undo. The radius is going to be 100. The cohesion radius has to be way larger than the separation radius. So let's experimentally say 500 for that radius. These currently have the same strength, the cohesion and the separation. I say always make your separation strength stronger than your cohesion. It's like this big cloud wants to get pulled together as a cloud, but they never want to get closer to each other. Then we've set this minimum radius. So I'm going to set that up to 2, so it's double the strength. And then we have this alignment velocity, and I think that's always a good idea to whichever number you have that's bigger. So in this case, my cohesion radius is 500. I'll paste that in as the velocity alignment radius. And that just means that the planes that are near each other are going to tend to take on each other's alignment as well. So just adding that in, we're going to be probably coming in through and changing the strength, but let's go and see what that does for us. Okay, immediately pretty different. Okay, they're definitely clustering more. I think we can see that they're staying decently apart from each other. But right now we seem to have quite a bit of, well, I mean, they're they're flocking quite nicely. There is settings for like how many we want to get included. I thought there was, yeah, there's the neighbor search, which is a fixed amount, but we can say it's dynamic. I don't necessarily know what that means. But right now I think our radiuses might just be, don't tell me it froze again. I've been saving often, but I just felt a hiccup that felt unnatural. Huh. Second freeze on there. And I still don't think we're doing anything complicated. Oh, disappointing. Yeah, I think, yeah, I'm not even going to waste time. Let's just immediately kill it and bring it back. And we should have only lost a few seconds of work. Boing, 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 boing. B. We can turn off the. Looks like we lost our. It's in the, because we saved it not at frame 0. It's actually an important thing to keep in mind. I saved it while it was playing, so it was at frame like 470. So when it opened the file, it was probably trying to initialize it up to frame 470. So probably been smarter to save it at frame 0 because it would have popped open right away. So we've got our look. So it looks like I saved it right before we did the flocking. Those settings were pretty straightforward. So we'll set this back to a cohesion of 500, a separation of 100, separation strength of 2, velocity alignment. I can actually do 250, so half the amount. But honestly, what I was about to do was lower my cohesion radius. Maybe I will lower that to 250, and then that means I'll lower this to maybe 150. Actually, no, I'll do 200. So those are now slightly smaller groups. I'm going to save again and hit play. Right now, we'll just see the particles, but right now, we're just seeing them kind of flow around. So I think that's fine. And I don't know if that cloner is what's causing us kind of freezing up trouble. But now you can see, because I made this smaller, we're actually getting these clusters of them moving around a little bit more. So now there's a nice separation behavior for the ones that are near each other. So yeah, a much nicer sort of flocking vibe. I dig it. And honestly, it's like, beyond that, we could start doing more flocking stuff, like having them follow a spline and whatnot. But for the most part, this sort of covers what I wanted it to. If we were to keep this selected and throw a tracer on there, we can actually see like the lines that they're traveling. So you can definitely see like the clustering and flocking of them as they go. So having done that, let's shrink those back down again. Pause, rewind, save, activate our cloner. And now, because of the nature of the flocking here, I don't think that the speeds are... Oh, don't tell me it just froze again. I think it froze again. I mean, you saw me build this from scratch. There's nothing crazy going on. I mean, I literally just saved, but it's our third freeze. I mean, something about this cloner. I'm assuming something with that cloner. It doesn't like it. Well, it is what it is. Open sesame. Start getting those additional questions put together. We need more questions if we're going to keep on streaming. Gambino, I do not like backups because I can work with files that are incredibly huge, and I don't want a bunch of copies of it. And I don't like any sort of autosave that would override the current thing, because I'm constantly opening up a file, stripping things out, and if it overrode the old one, it'd be really bad. So I'm really good, generally speaking, at never losing more than a couple of minutes at work. It's just in my head to save all the time. So it's not something I'm particularly worried about. So yeah, I mean, if I hit play right now, I mean, unfortunately, I want to see our final here, but every time I hit play when the cloner's turned on, we seem to be crashing. I can't think of any good reason for it. Right now, it's just doing the initial calculation, but you see, we're getting the nice flocking. I'll risk it. Let's turn it on. Let's see the flapping ones. Oh, immediately. Okay, something there doesn't like it. All right. Well, we learned some quirk of cinema. I will let Maxon know about the trouble you were just running into on that one. Anyway, I was about ready to move on to the next question anyway, because we tackled both components of what I wanted to on that one. But yes, we definitely, I think, narrowed it down to the idea that the cloner was the part that wasn't happy. Yeah, and Paul, I agree. The autosaving makes a mess of your files. It doesn't use my naming scheme that I like using. Like you see, I've got this very particular Actually, it might be kind of fun to explain a little bit of my file system. I don't know that other people um, would do something similar, but hang on, I got to switch screens to get to a proper folder. But I'm going to get to one of our other plugins, one that we launched maybe. And let's see, C4D and bugs. Okay, so let's switch on back. Okay, so here is my folder for Mesh to Spline. So obviously Mesh to Spline is one of the plugins that we have. And this is literally, I am the ultimate beta tester for our own tools. So this is me doing beta testing as we go. And you'll see that essentially I'll go and start writing my, the two programmers at Rocket Lasso are my two brothers. And you'll see I have like 1A, 1B, 1, and actually there'll sometimes be multiple of one. Which means that they're directly related to each other. And then it'll jump to 2. So essentially, I'll be writing an email to them with all the different errors I find, and I name it in order. And that means we're always progressing forward on any given concept. And so every time I do a new set of notes, suddenly we'll have a new 2, like 2A, C, D, E, and we cycle through that. And we just keep on going as we work and work and work on the project. And here you see we got up to like 10 different rounds of notes for this particular version of the tool. There's actually a different folder with more notes, but different files, different bugs, and they all get organized. They're all in the order that they were created. And it just makes it really clear how we're working. So that's just been the simplest file naming scheme that I've been able to come up with. That's essentially unlimited, clusters stuff up together, and makes it like really clean to work with. Let's see. Let's see. I'm checking for questions. Gambino asking one question. Can particles, in addition to making them move with turbulence in space, spin on their own axis once they are emitted? If so, is there a way to bind these particles to Voronoi fractures? What would be the use? I don't know. If I understand the question correctly, you're asking if there's several components to this. I think some of it's pretty straightforward. Let me go to my custom particle layout, and we'll do a similar thing to what I just did. Or if I have a preset, I do have several presets, but I don't think any of that necessarily help us right now. So I will just set this to, I'll set it to a cube, and we'll set this to be about 500. So big old cube. We'll do a shot of particles. We'll make 500-ish particles. So each of these particles is going to be born, and it's going to be doing whatever behavior it wants to do. Right now, it's got a speed and it's got a direction, and the direction is based off the normal. So here, it's going to be based off the normal direction of this cube. We could change this to random, and then we have, add emitter velocity. That would be if this is moving. But then we've got the important setting, which is our angular velocity. And here we could set a angular velocity of, let's say, 90 degrees. I imagine that's per second, and then a variation of it. And then the spin vector is currently set to velocity direction, but you'll see I can actually twirl that down. We've got several different options here. So we could base it off the direction it's flying, but I could also say random. And now they're going to be spinning a random amount up to 90, and they're going to be spinning a random direction. If we change our particle group to show this as, let's do it as handles. Let's hit play. We should get a burst. It's got initialize. We got a burst of particles, and you can see that, let me increase the size quite a bit. Actually, we'll do even more. And just because of the trouble we've been having, let's immediately save. As always, especially if there are new people hanging out today for the special series finale with a giveaway, you can get access to these scene files by supporting me on Patreon, which all of you should do. Everybody, go join Patreon, support Rocket Lasso. Let's see. Spin and lock Voronoi. I don't know if we'll be able to do the locking of the Voronoi in an intelligent way, but we're going to try. So if I deselect the particle group, what is it doing? It feels like it froze. Do I need to reset this machine? I'm trying to think of. I mean, I did a couple things on this machine since the last reset, but not like a ton. But like, did we just? I mean, it says it's saved, but like, I feel like it froze. I didn't even hit play yet. It's not playing. So I might very quickly do a restart on this machine. I'm trying to think if there's a reason not to. But yeah, I think it froze again. So all right, I'm gonna jump back up on screen. I'm just gonna do a quick restart here because something is up. Something is up in a big way. Restart. Hopefully, it doesn't take too long. Restart anyway. Okay, cool. That's going. Oh, of course, the computer's updating. Of course, it's updating. Um, let's see. Yeah, Sage, the new machine cannot come fast enough. I am very excited. Um, very, very excited. Fluff is saying having the issue a lot of crashing when saving. That's like literally the worst time ever to crash while you're saving. And especially, it's super dangerous because if it corrupts a file when you're saving, that's terrible. But if you corrupted a file you've been saving over and over and over, like a bunch of times, and it crashes, that'd be the worst because you could lose your old file. So that's a reason to increment. I haven't really been running into I don't think we've been running into this type of crash like during any of the stuff I'm doing or any live streams. Like we occasionally get crashes, but usually we're throwing something like really crazy at it. Where this has been, this is obviously that's a basic emitter, not doing anything crazy. Scott, oh okay, Scott, you have a link up there. Cool. Um, let's see. But yeah, when I do get the new machine, I'm definitely going to be doing some benchmarking. I'll do some Cinebench of the old tower, the laptop I've been doing, and then whatever the new machine's doing, so we can see how it handles everything. It's already restarted. I am currently launching Cinema. Let's see if it finds it again. Oh, it does. Okay, I thought I might have to unplug and replug, but it found it. A pretty fast reset, considering it. Windows started updating, of course. Um, oh yeah, Paul, you're right. I shouldn't have said it out loud. The laptop knows there's a new machine coming, and it's lashing out. You'd think it would be on its best behavior, so I don't leave it behind. Okay, we're actually in this version, and let's see if the file actually saved because it's here and it's got a size. Did it crash after the save? Okay, it did save it. Cool. All right. So for no particular reason, we've now reset. All I did, I was like, it froze when I was clicking off of it. So go figure. I'm gonna hit play with it not selected. So now we should see the axis, and we should see the colors of them. Initializing. Boom. Okay, now you see them all flying around, and yeah, you see them spinning at different speeds. None of them terribly fast, so I'm going to dramatically increase that speed of angular velocity. We're going to say up to 360 with a variation of 360. So now you see, yeah, some are going to barely spin, others are going to be spinning like super crazy, and they might be spinning on any given axis or all three axes. So yeah, lots of different spin and rotation. Cool. Pause, rewind, save. Okay, so didn't freeze that time. Now those are spinning. We could control it. There's a bunch of different velocity controls. If we go to particle layout, then I hate when Windows does this. Go away bar. I hate, what is this thing? Pick an app. That seems sus. Anyway, you've got different controls for spinning. Look, spin, and turn are all controls for controlling the spin. And you also do it directly with data mapping and the math. Like we could be accelerating the spin and slowing down the spin, and different regions could be triggering different spins. And if you enter a fall off of something, or if it sticks to an object, it could suddenly take on the direction of the object. Like you got lots of different options as far as that's concerned. I'm not sure why I'm getting this constant hourglass. It's like my machine feels like it's thinking about something. So here's the challenge. Yeah, I don't know how well this is going to work. Yeah, I very much don't know how this is going to work because what I want to do, this is going to be so tricky. It would be that we make a cube. We'll make the cube as large as our emitter, a little bit larger actually. Make a Voronoi fracture. delete our source, and then put in the basic emitter. Now, if I were to go forward, it's exactly one frame. It still has to initialize, so it's going to take a second for that to do it. But in theory, actually, is that true if I play? Okay, no, it's not seeing it, and that's going to be because I need to make these real. Not, I don't think cache. I don't know why I always forget how to do it. Is it just the global setting? How do I tell? I would think it'd be in the particle group. I don't want to cache it. So is it just in the simulation particle settings? Nope, 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 no, no, no. I have some workarounds, but I thought there was just a way of making them return as points. Override display. Oh, am I on the emitter? Oh, I'm on the emitter. Sorry, that was just me. I derped on that. Thanks, thanks, Phil. I just dragged the wrong one in. Okay, I'm going. Okay, now I went forward one frame, and now you see one frame later, it's acknowledged. Now, if I were to go, I don't know how fast it's going to be, so I'm going to carefully kind of one frame by frame it. But you'll see as I go frame by frame, it's actually animating. Okay, it's going well enough. You can see that this is going to be animating and popping and whatnot. And it's because it's seeing the updated state at any given moment. So okay, actually, this aspect will be a little bit easier. I'm going to give it a velocity of 0. So it's got 0 speed. And yeah, 0 speed. So it's going to be spinning, but the Voronoi doesn't care about the spin. So if I hit play, then now, yeah, it's made a bunch of particles, and those particles are spinning around, but they're just sitting in one spot. So, this doesn't really, you can see the little things, kind of push through in the corners every once in a while. So it doesn't care that those are moving. So now, here's the tricky part. How do we make them stick and spin to those parts? Or let's just say that this got created that way. I mean, on one hand, I'm kind of inclined to say like, okay, that is static and it is what it is, and then bake a Voronoi fracture. That seems like the safest thing to do, because once we start moving the particles, those will move. So I think it might actually be the case that we need to do that. It's possible that we could duplicate the emitter, and then we'll have one do one thing, and this one's always based off of that static one. That in theory could work. And you know me, I want to keep it parametric if we can. So this second emitter, I will give it the speed back again. So that one will move. So in theory, I should be able to play right now. And yeah, now you see our thing isn't breaking. And because the two emitters should be identical, they should be from the same origin, and then move and hit save. Now, can we, let's visualize it first. Let's turn off the Voronoi, and I will make a matrix object. This matrix object will clone onto an object, and that object will be the second emitter group. And I'm going to increase my draw size. So now you can see that these cubes are on these new, clones. Actually, I might need to zero them out, but let's just keep working. You see that these are now spinning and doing their thing, going crazy. So now, can we do an inheritance? So if we bring back the Voronoi, and I say, it might look crazy on frame 1, or frame 0, but for everything beyond that, I hope is what would work. So let's make an inheritance effector, and we change this to animation, and we're going to link it to an object, and the object needs to be some other, let's actually move these to the bottom. It needs to be some other cloner object. So I'll say inherit from this matrix object. As far as I know, I think that's all we need to do is animation and link. So if I play, okay, no good so far. Effectors, we did feed the inheritance. I don't think turning on fall off base does anything. Loop animation wouldn't do anything. Selection wouldn't do anything. I thought that would work. So as a point of testing, I'm going to turn that off. we're going to go 1 frame forward, make this editable, okay? So that's now exploded. And then we can feed that into a cloner. I'll make a cloner. In theory, there are actually, we'll find out. I'm going to middle mouse button click to select all children. And it's currently saying 555 elements. I'll drop that in. And they should have been made in the order. They should have been made in the order that the indexes were. So now if I say do a linear copy, and I'm going to make exactly 555, they're all on top of each other. But if we say that this cloner should inherit from the matrix, go 1 frame forward, nothing. So, well, because I baked that down, this means I feel like I'm doing something wrong on, oh, okay, I'm sorry. We don't go to animation. We leave on direct and I change it to morph motion object. Okay, now you see they suddenly jumped, which probably means I can turn that off, hide it, and reactivate this one and see if that works. I said it might look crazy on frame 0, and that's what I was talking about. Now, if we go forward 1 frame and they break apart, they suddenly jump into their proper positions. Okay, but you'll see that the rotations are super crazy. So that goes back to, I think we need to grab both of our emitters, and under direction random, I'm going to say it's the axis. So the direction they're traveling is that. Now, the spin, I think the spin gets applied after the direction. So the hope here would be on frame 1. Maybe visually there'll be like a little twist on them, but they'll mostly be where they're supposed to be. So let's give that a moment. I mean, the axis of what I'm looking at there looks like they're just barely twisting, but these are sort of all over the place. Having said that, maybe the alignments are different. Let's see. Totorus. I might as well say it while somebody's asking about it. If you want to enter the raffle, and we're going to be doing 2 of them. In fact, we'll be doing 1 of them very soon. Then you just want to participate in the chat on Twitch and on YouTube. So feel free to actively participate in the conversation. Just don't spam. If I see you spamming, then I'm going to automatically disqualify you just based on whatever criteria I see fit. So yeah, anybody, if you are on Twitch watching, if you just joined, like, go ahead and say hello. Feel free. Everybody say hello. Here, I'm going to give everybody some free entries. Everybody say hello, and everybody say where you're tuning in from. I am broadcasting from Chicago. Okay, going back to this. Let's simplify a bunch. I'm going to set the spin vector to axis, and we're going to say a spin of 0 and a variation of 0. And we're going to set a speed of 0. Everything's at 0. Totorus, yes, it has to be on Twitch or YouTube. You are currently on YouTube, but both of them count. Okay, so now there should be no moving and there should be no spinning whatsoever. Yeah, it's all Z plus, local, global. Like, that makes perfect sense to me. So let's try that again. Go 1 frame forward. And now you see those aren't rotated, but those still look all crazy. So what I'm wondering is there an inherent like offset where like Z is a different direction? I don't know if this will work. Okay, it does. I'm just going to go into this matrix and try and do some like 90-degree rotations and see if suddenly everything will match if we get like the correct rotation. Actually, I got to say, almost looks like those indexes aren't correct. That doesn't look like a corner piece to me. Do you see a corner? I don't see a corner. I mean, I guess maybe that could be a corner. No. Okay, if they're all in the wrong order there. Then that's not going to work at all. Because there should be as many particles as there are. This matrix is cloning onto the particles. The particles are created in an order. The Voronoi Fracture should be viewing the particles in the index order that they were created, unless their index gets resorted. But yeah, here's sorting, and you see it's not resorting, so it should be based on the index to my eye. Let's see. Well, let's see. We got some Silicon Valley. We got Italy. Welcome. An appropriate name for Italy. I like it. New Zealand, New Jersey, Greece, Let's see. Caspian, did you say twice? Is that another New Zealand? Or that's cool. Colorado. Oh, another New Jersey. We got a lot of people from New Jersey today. Welcome. Um, yeah. Anyway, Canada. So yeah. Thanks everybody for coming in and hanging out. Okay. I wonder if all those NZs are New Zealand, France, Belgium, New Zealand. I love how international the audience is. That's really cool. From Ukraine. Oh, and first time chatter. Thanks for coming and hanging out for sure. Um, let's see. Oh yeah, Swiss. Excellent. We could try the make it editable again. Actually, I've still got the made editable one, so I'll turn that off, turn this on, reactivate that. Seemingly the exact same thing. Although, let's go one frame forward to make sure they actually exist. Yeah, interesting. Now, if they don't match the index, I'm not quite sure what to do. Because a cloner is iterating, so it should iterate through based on the internal index. The only thing that's immediately coming to mind is if somehow it's backwards, like somehow the last one is first and the first one is last. That is, I'm gonna try one time to see if I can invert it. I don't even know if it's the case, but if we go to modify clone and we crank it up, they've all been set to the exact same copy. And now if we go into the field and I make a step and then we invert it. So under remapping, I'll say invert the step. It's now the opposite order. And then I can go back to the matrix and try and zero some stuff out and just spin around and see if we feel a corner piece. I mean, that could be a corner, but these other ones aren't matching. So this just might not cooperate. Sadly. I mean, given you didn't have a specific effect in mind, and a lot of what I would think to achieve from this, we could just do with pure simulation or pure MoGraph, and not necessarily get particles involved. But yeah, the what I thought would be the logical way of getting them is not quite working for us. Potentially, we could do like the opposite instead of. I don't want to spend a bunch of time on this because it is just kind of an exercise. And we're not necessarily solving a specific problem. A thought would be instead of initializing with a random group of particles, if we initialize with like a matrix object with a random offset, and then we say that the particles are born from them, and that the Voronoi is born from that as well. So maybe they could all start with the origin of that object. Having said that, I don't even know if the particles could take on the initial position of a matrix. Yeah, I do not know about that. CG Studio, I might actually want access to that playlist, those playlists, if you're putting them all together. But yeah, start getting more questions together. But I think I'm going to do the first giveaway. So I don't see any reason not to. I'm going to do one for YouTube and one for Twitch. So as always, we're going to do this in the silliest possible method. And that's going to be, I'm going to copy all of the chat and I'm going to paste it into this weird alphabetizer app. And we've literally been doing this for years and years. So it's a very silly methodology, but let me tear this tab off. And any regulars should recognize this very silly thing. So I'm going to put in randomize, and I'll just do a quick demo. So this one's not going to count, or maybe we can even do this with some other copies since I happen to have something up like this. I don't know how well this will work, but let's just copy some information from here. Copy. I'll put it in here and paste. And you see, we got all these different lines going. Now, sometimes it might be like a message, and sometimes it might be somebody's name. But I'm going to paste it in, and then I'm going to hit randomize, and it's going to resort through everything randomly, and then it's going to put everything in a different crazy random order. And now the first line might be something somebody's saying, but the first name, the name closest to the top, is going to be the winner. And we're going to do it on Twitch, and then we're going to do it for YouTube. So nobody on YouTube do this yet because we're doing it on Twitch first. But on Twitch, for the next 10 seconds, everybody can go crazy typing as much as you want. So only for the next 10 seconds. And nobody jump the gun on YouTube because I'll notice, and then you won't be qualified. So yeah, you're allowed to spam for 10 seconds. I know there's a little bit of a lag here, so I'm going to wait until I see those messages and then stop it. I'm going to clear this out, and then we're going to, let's see, I'm at 10. I appreciate that people are trying to type in things and not just like type gibberish on the keyboard. Okay, cool. And I'm going to call it. I know everybody else is getting some, your response will be late, but I'm going to select all, copy. Okay, it's now copied and locked in. Somebody's asking, what are we eligible to win? You are eligible to win any Rocket Lasso plugin. You get to choose which one you want. So I'm going to paste it in. This isn't what counts yet. Let's go ahead and drop this in, paste. And then I'll scroll to the top. I have not hit the button yet, so we'll scroll to the top. And I'm going to hit randomize. And remember, whichever name is closest to the top is going to win. And you have to be here to win. So if somebody typed earlier and then they took off and they're not here, then we're going to re-roll again. So you have to be here. So I'm going to hit randomize. Boop. And let's see who's at the top. Eric is at the top. Eric, if you're still here, you have just won. Were you one of the people? Well, you weren't in here helping spam, so we have to see if you're here. So we're going to give you just a little while to say hello if you're still in the chat. So Eric Kenton, are you here? Or is it Eric Anton? Then we will, if they're here. Oh, okay, excellent. So Eric, you're going to want to get a hold of me on some sort of social media, preferably Slack. But if not Slack, then, on Twitter or on Blue Sky or any account that I'm on, just reach out, and then we can exchange email, and then I will ask you which plugin you want. Okay, now we're moving over to YouTube. Okay, if you're in YouTube, I know there's gonna be a little bit of lag, but you are now allowed to spam for 10 seconds over on YouTube. And then we will, and that's just, kind of weighing it a little more heavily towards the people who are actually still here. And then we're going to copy and paste and do the exact same thing over on YouTube. And yeah, again, thanks everybody for coming and hanging out on the finale. It's always really fun. I appreciate everybody being here. I appreciate all the support that you give me over here on the live streams, asking all the great questions. A super huge big thanks to everybody who is supporting on Patreon. That is actually a huge help to Rocket Lasso. It's very important to enable us to keep on trying to do what we're doing. So I'm going to say select all. Oh, Garcia just gifted 25 subs. I don't know if I've ever had. Oh, no, it's gifted 5 subs. It's Garcia 25. But I don't know if I've ever had gifted subs before. So thank you very much. Anyway, I'm going to go to YouTube, select all, copy. Okay, it's now locked in, so you can stop spamming. And great spamming, everybody. And let's move back in the chat. I'm going to select all, delete, paste. So this is the new one. I have not hit randomize yet, so we're going to scroll up to the top. And let's just delete out some of this blank space. And I can hit randomize, and we'll see what name is up at the top. 3, 2, 1, randomize. Pixel Fill Great Plugins. Oh, I think it's Pixel Fill. Pixel Fill saying great plugins. Well, what a great message to be up at the top. Pixel Fill, are you still here on YouTube? I know there's some lag on there, so we'll give it a second. Let's see. Oh, and it did randomize. I think that was one of your most recent messages too. So yeah, the spam worked out. Yay, Phil's here as well. Okay, excellent. So we have our first 2 winners. We're going to do 2 more. We're going to do another one for YouTube and another one for Twitch at the end of the stream. So less than an hour from now. So yeah, thank you very much, everybody. I feel like, am I sharing the correct? Oh yeah, I'm sharing the correct screen. I was like, did I lose it? Yeah, thank you so much, everybody. It's really fun. I love doing this. It's really fun. Wrong, Phil. Yep. Well, you get another chance. And again, get a hold of me on some sort of social media or on Slack, and then I'll find out which plugin you want, and I'll send you a code for it. so that you're in the official system, so you get all the updates and whatnot for when like new versions of cinema come out, etc. Okay, so I'm actually very excited. I mentioned this at the beginning, but maybe some people weren't here yet. I am going to do a little preview, a sneak preview of an upcoming plugin from Lasso. It is actually, I think it's going to be our simplest plugin. If you are familiar, let me show you something. If you are familiar and you kind of follow my social stuff and you kind of follow on the streams especially, you'll know that for the last couple of years, Rocket Lasso has put a lot of time and effort into working on a contract with Maxon to make a whole bunch of cool different tools. And if you go into your asset browser right now, if you have any kind of C4D subscription and you search for the word Rocket Lasso, you're going to see that there's actually a bunch of really cool tools that we designed. And these are really powerful. And at some point, I'm going to make a big giant video going through all of them and all the cool stuff you can do with them. But anyway, we've been doing a lot of work on these tools. And I had cool ideas that I wanted to be able to do, but like essentially the nodes can't do that type of thing yet. So the tool I'm going to show you is going to be kind of similar in the idea of like, well, you see how there's not that many parameters. It's a simpler tool where this is more like having a bend deformer or something. Oh, and if you didn't know, a bunch of those Rocket Lasso tools, the modifiers are in the deformer menu now. So our branch spline modifier, catenary, brake spline, electric spline, like a bunch of them in there already. So anyway, that's a little caveat as to the context, which is kind of like, oh, I wanted to make a particular type of modifier, but we could not make it using nodes. So we're like, oh, we'll just make a proper plugin for it. So when we do release this one, it's going to be a cheaper plugin. It's not going to be as expensive because it is a simpler tool. But the new tool is, let me pull up something so we can start showing it right away. I'm going to make a grid. Now, this is another one of those tools we made for Maxon. So this will actually generate this grid for us automatically. The new tool, if I go under my extensions, is called the Rocket Spline Field Mask. So I'm going to create this field mask, and this is a deformer, effectively. You take this mask, and that's why it's purple, to hang out with the rest of the deformers. And we can take this and drop it as a child of the grid, and you'll see everything disappears. And inside, you see very few parameters. If you're familiar with Rocket Lasso plugins, we always have a ton of parameters, but this one, very clean. And what does this tool do exactly? Well, it is going to take any spline you have, be it 3-dimensional or 2-dimensional, whatever, and you can now feed in fields, and it's going to mask out your splines based on that. So you can see I can grab this and drag my linear field one way or the other, and it's actually going to crop out parts of the spline. I can grab this and I can rotate it, and you can see that it's now cropping out only parts of that. Let's do this again from scratch. So I'll make another grid. And this time I will make this a 3-dimensional grid. So I'll set it to 10 by 10 by 10. So cool 3-dimensional grid. Go back under my extensions. I'll make another field mask, drop it as a child. And this time I will say, make a spherical field fall off. And now you can see that as I increase this, that we're only revealing the parts that should be. I could go over here and say, actually give me the opposite, like what's greater than. So it's actually pretty cool. I can increase this shape. And now you see we just get these outer bits, and these could be animated. You can keyframe these and just create any sort of mask that you want on top of your spline. Now, the methodology we're doing to make this, I think, is actually really cool. Let me show you. I'll simplify a little bit to show you. Drop this grid back to, is it 0? Yeah, it's back to 0. And let's shrink this down a bit. So the way we're doing this, it might be best if I make sure that there's if we do this transition that's happening at the halfway point, you see right in between the middle and the outer, and that's because currently we have a threshold of 50%, but just to keep it as simple as possible, I'll crank this up so there is no transition between the two. And you're going to see that everything's getting clipped off. Now, this is actually an incredibly difficult thing to do inside of cinema. We're using the fields, but you can only sample a field if there is a physical point in space somehow. And I think that we came up with something really clever. Let me show you a couple things. If I were to make this grid editable, you see it's just a spline, and you'll see that every spline, let me hit UW and pull this up. You can see that this is just a spline with 1 point on either side. And that's what all these are. They're lines only made up of 2 points. So how are we going to essentially we need to subdivide this a bunch to sample it. Well, we're actually doing that internally. So inside of this, you'll see that we have a parameter called resample turned on by default, and it's saying resample every 5 units. Now, here's the cool part is if you double click on the field mask, just double click on the icon, it's actually going to give you a preview of the subdivisions it's doing. So over here, you can see that's actually virtually subdividing it. And we're doing a calculation based on all of these to see which side it falls on. Depending on the resolution of your object, you can get away with this being a lot larger. Sometimes if you have a really detailed object, you want it to be really small. So there is an additional step to this, though. If I just got, this is going to get renamed, but there's currently a parameter called sub. And you'll see if I zoom in that here's where that sphere crops off, and you'll see that there's where one point is, and there's where the other point is that we're sampling. And it's like, well, this did exist, there was a connection, and this didn't exist, so there's not a connection. But you see that it's only as accurate as our subdivisions are. So if I were to say that the step is 10, suddenly there's this really big gap, and you might see like a huge like space in between those things. Now I could say, well, lower this way down to like 2, or even lower it down to 1, and it's like, okay, that's suddenly way more accurate. You see this like really, really close to one of the subdivisions. But look at all of these calculations that we had to do. So what you want to do is find the best of both worlds. And this is what I'm really proud of. And that's where sub comes in. What's happening right now is we've detected a spot where it's like, yes, it is here. No, it's not there. So it happens somewhere in between these two things. So if I grab the sub parameter, new name pending. If I increase this up to 1, what's going to happen is every single place that there was the transition from not existing to existing, it will create 10 subdivisions and then figure out where it should fall in between those. Let me go find one that's more on an angle. So you can see now that here it's like, okay, it's subdivided at 10 times, and it was like, oh, now it doesn't exist here, it does exist there. So it's 10 times more accurate than it used to be. Now, if I increase sub again, it's going to say which one of those did it fall in, and it subdivides it 10 more times. And now I can zoom in again, and now you can see that is even more accurate. I could do 3 iterations of sub, and now now look, I can't even zoom in any further because it's going to start cropping out based on the view distance because it's so dang accurate. Now here's the beauty of this system is that as we'd have to do this initial calculation with all these different subdivisions, which is actually still incredibly fast, but every time I add another sub, it's not having to do like a million additional calculations. It just has to do, like in this case, however many points there were. So I don't know, what is there, like 20 of those? So it's resampling to the field layer and it's saying, here's another 20 places to sample. And then once we've done that, we say, okay, subdivide a bunch more times, and now we only have to do 20 more checks again. So it's now, instead of being like a million checks, now we're saying, well, let's do 1,000 checks, and then we're going to do 20, 20, 20, 20, however many subs you get. So you can essentially get like infinite accuracy, like infinite brute force accuracy, closer in accuracy than you could ever possibly need just by doing a couple of subdivisions after the fact. So anyway, I thought it's a really I'm really proud of coming up with the idea of that system to get like maximum detail in the spots that we need it. Now, having said that, honestly, doing like 2 of these, I think is going to be super duper practical. A couple other things to note is if I were to make this editable, I'll make a connect object and drop inside the connect, and let's not weld. If I make this editable and bake the whole thing down, you'll see that we are not returning those subdivisions. Your spline is not subdivided. It will only make the new point at the spot that it needed to calculate it. So it doesn't actually create those points. That's just the virtual points that we're checking against. Now, having said that, I'm showing you some very, very simplistic examples of masking out splines. And of course, this does unlock all the power of fields where I can like move this around, mask out different sections, move it up, move it down, like so many different possibilities with fields and blending this field on top of that field. But let's spend a little time and make it maybe more visually interesting. Let's make our grid, let's double the resolution. So we got more of that. And now let's feed in something more interesting like a random field. So here's a random field. I'll set this to normal. And inside of it, let's go and it's noise based. I'll make this a larger noise. And there we go. Now you see we're actually sampling against this noise pattern. This noise pattern could get animated. And I can hit play. And now we have an animated noise traveling through the spline, returning it however we like. So obviously noise, very cool. We could show a band here. Let's go inside here. Right now it's like greater than, less than. We could say exactly equal to, but most times that's not going to do much for you. But then we have min and max. And so this one's cool where I can actually drag either side and kind of get a thin sliver of what the behaviors would be. So we kind of get this little mid cross section. I'm trying to find a nice area, maybe somewhere right around there. So yeah, min and max we're seeing above and below a particular spot. We can click this invert button and get the exact opposite of whatever is currently getting returned. And yeah, lovely animation there. Let's go and grab our grid, and maybe let's not go too far on that. We'll do 11, 11, 11. So now we get this big one. Grab this random, actually, I'll just say greater than again, and grab I'll say don't show the points because we don't need them. Let's grab our random noise and make that way larger. So let's do 1555. Yeah, so now we get this larger noise, like only revealing those sections. So I think there's lots of really cool motion graphics opportunities. This is just a spline, so we can still just return it as a spline in the cinema. I could take this and feed this into a volume builder. Let's grab the line there, decrease the radius, increase the density. I think that's fine. Feed that into a volume mesher. And let's make sure that and now the voxel size will drop down to 4. And now you see that we've got this giant volume of mesh just coming from wherever the resulting splines are existing. Now, of course, this volume builder is going to take a little bit to calculate. Not horrible, but now you see I hit play, and that is animating through, just animating the splines. So very, very fun there. Let's go and open a new scene file and make a grid again. The grid is just a really great way of demonstrating it. Obviously, it's not limited to a grid, but if I were to make a grid, subdivide a bunch of times, let's make a spline, a text spline here, set it to the middle, R for rotate, spin it 90. Let's type in a RKT. Move it down. Let's feed in a new field mask into grid, and I'll feed in the spline. Now immediately you're going to get these kind of wacky, the default is along a spline. But if I click on the spline and I say, actually, I want it to be a mask, you can now see I'm masking based on this. Let's visually hide the other one. And I see I'm just getting that grid. We've got the fall off, so I can actually drag this in or out and make it fatter or skinnier. We could change the text. We could animate the text. We can move this around, like reveal certain areas, go into my field mask and say invert. And now you see we're getting the opposite. So we're actually erasing out that section. So lots of really cool motion graphics opportunities. And then there's one last thing there's a bunch of, I don't have like all the demos or the commercial or anything figured out yet, just some fun demo files and things I've played with. But one feature that we did feed in, and I'm going to do the quick version for you here, but if we were to make something, it might look nicer. It's not a great font, but I'm going to grab this curvy font here. Let's type in live middle. So now I got this nice curvy font. If I feed in a brand new field mask into it, we actually have this handy button. If you go under advanced, there's a button called animate along rig. So if I click on animate along, suddenly it comes back. We go back over here and you see that this has automatically done something interesting. It's taken whatever spline we're a child of and fed it in. And then it's inverting the direction, and the spline is set to a curve along. And then we have an animate along with very particular settings. So over the course of 90 frames, it's going to offset the entire thing. Anyway, short version here, I can now hit play, and now it's automatically going to be animating along the line. And based on the field mask, we can like crop out different sections. So I can say, hey, just reveal like a little part of it and have it travel along. And there'd be ways of growing this or overlapping it or like remapping it several times, all just using whatever you want inside of your field list. So the idea here is that the goal is for this to be an incredibly simple tool, a lot like any deformer, not too many settings. And really, it's just all about unlocking the power of fields onto any spline. Obviously, Rocket Lasso has made a bunch of spline tools where we've got our mesh to spline, we've got ricochet, we've got slicer. And so these work really well with those, as well as working on top of a bunch of the tools that we made for Maxon. So actually I haven't done this. It's a little dangerous to do it, but let's make an electric spline modifier here and grab the electric spline modifier. Let's temporarily turn this off. So now you can see I've turned this, let's turn the entire thing. I'm gonna give it no fall off. So now you see I've turned this text into electricity, but now I'm gonna grab the field mask and say, run it along there. And now you can see the electricity is traveling along it. Actually, we'd probably need to be a modified version of it. So it'd have to be into connect object to see the fully modified one, but still running from the existing unmodified spline. So yeah, I think it's a pretty exciting little tool. During our live streams, there's many times where I'm like, oh, I wish I could be using the field mask. It works pretty well with like the grow, the freeze and grow effect. That can be neat. Let me see if I can pop open demos, stream. We don't need that. Kind of skipped right over it. I don't know if any of these are a good one to show. Oh, here's actually a good example. You know the weave spline generator? So we for Maxon, we made the weave spline generator. So you see that it makes this kind of cool, crazy, complex, like woven spline. But all I can do is make a big grid of it. But now I can use a field mask and say, okay, now erase out based on the text and then sweep the result of that. So now we get all of these interwoven with each other and taking on the shape of the mask. And now I can hit play and I have a rope simulation on there. So, of course, the simulation needs to initialize. And now we've got that simulated rope, and it is literally only those parts that we chopped away. There's not like invisible threads there. And they're all able to drift and, slide apart from each other and whatnot. So, yeah, very fun. Very fun to layer these things up on top of each other, just unlock more tools. Ragged Lasso kind of at this point specializes in making spline tools, but it just goes to, I think, the C4D spline tool set was lacking. So it's been really fun to keep on adding and adding and adding to it and getting like cool new things in there. So yeah, pretty cool. That's most of what I wanted to show for like this sneak preview. Grid to shame, grid line, cloud noise. This is this one. Turn off the mask. So here's using mesh the spline to get the perimeter of the cube, and then using noise in a similar way. So you can get these little circles all kind of on the outside. Looks kind of cool. And then where's one of those growing ones? Yeah, this is using the grow. So this is using a vertex map. This vertex map is doing some fairly complex freeze calculations. So this one doesn't run super fast. But if I hit play, you see that this is organically growing. Well, let me turn this off. You can see that there's actually a huge, super subdivided grid. Well, lots of sections here. So this is doing a grow animation through it. You can kind of see like this almost explosion looking growth happening through there. So it's kind of like this cool animated feedback loop of math kind of passing through. So yeah, lots of cool, crazy motion graphics opportunities, modeling opportunities, just being able to make things that we couldn't make any other way. Unless there's any specific questions about this tool, then we'll try and tackle another question before we get to the final giveaway. But yeah, pretty cool. Check in the chat. Let's see. Thank you. Can CG Studio asking, can we run a rope simulation on the field while it's animating and changing? The answer to that is sadly no. You could do what we did in a couple of live streams ago. Well, here's the thing. Cinema's simulation system cannot change handling different point counts. If the point count is changing over time, it's going to break. And this is essentially changing the point count. Like we're deleting out a lot of points. We're creating new points where the cuts are happening. So you could not run a simulation we couldn't run this after the fact. Wait, let me think. We could run this after a simulation, and we can run it statically before a simulation, but you can't do it. You can't be modifying something that's constantly updating and then run a simulation on that. That's the one combination that doesn't work. But you saw that with the weave one, we could do it beforehand. We just can't be animating it. And after the fact, I could do some sort of like passing through and erasing out sections as like a post effect modification on this as well. So yeah, there's some cool combinations that can be done there. Jed asking, could you affect this with sound? I mean, you could affect it with sound to the extent that you could affect anything in cinema with sound. So I don't see why not. Like with, if there's a, the sound field, what field do we have in here? Is it just called the sound field? I don't know. I never use it. The sound field. So yeah, the sound field would have just as much an effect as it would in anything. But of course, this is spatial, and the sound field tends to apply everywhere. But you could use that as a multiplier for other things. Like you could imagine, like that growth effect I just had. That the growth effect can only progress when the sound is loud. So it could be suddenly like go forward, go forward, go forward. So that type of thing could work. Let's see. That's a question for the proper stream. I'll save that. Will it work in R23? I don't know. We have not decided how far back we're going to go with this. Certain plugins can only go so far back because like Cinema, like Maxon might have changed something to do with like the field, like with fields in general. And if we want functionality beyond that. And another part just goes to, I not infrequently will do a survey where I'll ask like social media or I'll ask Slack to be like, hey, what versions are you using? And then if we have like 50 people saying, hey, we're all in the newest, versions from the last 2 years, and then one person says, well, I'm using a 5-year-old version, like it's not worth our update time to go far that back and continue to be compatible with that. So that's kind of what decides it. So I don't know how far we'll go back. We usually go as far back as it is convenient to do so. The season should be 12 months. I mean, it'd be great if it could be. But if I had a full-time editor and people to prep things and whatnot, but as long as it's all me, that eats up a lot of my work time. Again, thank you for the gifted subs over on Twitch. That is very much appreciated. It is an excellent way of supporting Rocket Lasso. The Sage asking, I don't know what Saber is. Yeah, sub. Yeah, everybody should sub to Rocket Lasso on YouTube. When's it coming out? I don't know. Honestly, there's an entire plugin that's probably going to come out before this one, but I'm not quite ready to show that one off. So this is kind of jumping ahead because this one's a little more simple. But it is not simple to launch a plugin. Like, yeah, the code could work right now, but we have to get it we have to get version for everybody, get it super beta tested, get all the marketing material, the store. It's such a big thing. Let's see. Yeah, Bihavana. Yes, it absolutely works with Slicer and Mesh to Spline. Those create the raw material. This modifies it after the fact. And the redshift tag for spline visibility affects it. It behaves exactly perfectly as a spline, as far as we can tell. It seems to work perfectly. We might have run into a small problem with Octane that we're trying to debug right now, but we're trying to figure it out. I will say that there are some weirdnesses where certain things in cinema. Well, how do I explain this? I'll even show you the limitation, or sort of. It's a known limitation. I don't have amazing ways of getting around it right now. We do have ways of getting around it, but you saw, well, it's like a lot of things. Like Redshift can render a spline. Let me type in limits. So you saw that or we didn't do it, but Redshift can render the partial line perfectly. But Cinema 4D, an object is either an open spline or a closed spline. There's no open and closed splines. It can't handle it. Now, some objects in excuse me. Some objects in C4D can handle an open and closed spline. Things like the volume, things like the redshift rendering tag, those do work. But let's throw in a field mask here. And let's keep it simple with a linear. So here's a linear spline. So something you should notice is, I'll tilt this back. Come on, give me the handle. I'll tilt it backward. Okay, now I'll even visually hide that, but yeah, it's not hidden while I have it selected. So you'll see as I drag this through, that's like everything right now is like everything's a closed spline. But as I pull this through, there is now an open spline. There's in fact 2 open splines. You see that's an open spline and that's an open spline. Certain things in cinema can see an open spline and a closed spline. Certain things can't. One thing that cannot easily see it, unfortunately, is a sweep. Now, I desperately want the sweep to get updated in cinema. I think it's very out of date. But let me show you. If I were to throw a spline in here and sweep it, you'll see that suddenly all of them are open. Every single segment is open because the sweep can only see something if it's open or closed. And if any segment is considered open, then sweep's like, I don't know how to handle that. Everything's open. Now, we have compensated for this with one way. It's unfortunately, it's not the smoothest workflow, but if you go inside of the field mask, I can go under advanced, and right now it's returning open and closed. So you'll see if I turn this off, you have open and closed successfully. The sweep just doesn't know how to see it. So what you can alternatively do is say, well, I want this field mask to only return the closed splines. So you can see we are now not returning anything that was open. So what this now means is I could make a duplicate here and switch, make the duplicate, and we could even make that like an instance if we wanted to keep those paired up. And I'll say this one will only be open. So now we have a sweep that is dealing with the open spline, and then we have a sweep that is dealing with the closed spline. So all I have to do is make sure I've got both of these selected, and this will continue to work perfectly. You'll see no transition. It should just be a perfect smooth, transition here, because as soon as one of them ceases to be a closed spline, it'll instantly become an open, which means it's taken into account by the other one. So that's essentially the only caveat for doing this, is cinema just doesn't like open and closed. Maybe one day in the future. What's interesting is that inside of the node, in node land, nodes can have open and closed splines, but the old legacy tools inside of cinema don't know how to read the open and closed splines. So, one day in the future. Let's see, just checking any other questions. Yeah, and Bihavna, thank you very much. I will pass it along to the brothers. And Rob, thank you very much, who has all the plugins, and many times they make things so easy. The plugin I'm not showing off, I'm not ready to show off, is hopefully going to be, I think it might be our biggest plugin insofar as it's not one of these like novelty spline tools. I don't want to call it novelty, like slicing is super practical, but it's like slicing is a very specific thing. A different upcoming tool is one that is a lot more kind of needed in your everyday work. So I'm really excited about it, but yeah, it's a workflow tool, which is not the type of thing Rocket Lasso has typically made. That's definitely a little bit more, I think, the style back in the grayscale Gorilla days, where there's like a lot of really practical workflow tools. But anyway, I'm going to start scrubbing through and seeing if there's any active questions, and let's try and see if we can tackle at least a short-ish one before we wrap up the season finale. Sorry to hear it, Paul. When's the secret plugin coming out? That one is hopefully sooner. We are working very hard actively on that one. So yeah, my brother's in the other room working on it right now. So yeah, I can't give a distinct date because every time I give a date on these, I'm so far off, and then people are like, "Where is it?" Anyway, Totris, excellent avatar for another stream maybe. But here's the idea: is it possible to do worm with a spline, then use a sweep to create the body, then make the worm twitch, physically responding over the floor? Okay, it's possible with a spline, then use a sweep to create the body, then make the worm twitch, physically responding over the floor. Yeah, I don't see any reason why not to. Let me jump to this is the older version of cinema. I make sure to keep them quarantined because one of them I'll test plugins in, and the other one is the live stream one, so I don't accidentally show off the plugins before I'm ready to, because I've definitely done that in the past. There'll be somebody always messaging being like, "Oh, what was that something I saw in the drop down?" Which is always funny. I'm never like upset about that, but anyway, yeah, if we're gonna try and make a little worm here. I suppose the new rope simulation system is the way to go. What's going on here? That was weird. It wasn't grabbing the handle for a second there. I'm gonna make a relatively large floor here. I kind of want to make what's the best way of doing this? I almost want to use the mask to make a bunch of these. Let's make a series of them, because why not? I'll make a line, and I'll feed that line into a cloner. I'll move these up, and let's center them. I will subdivide them reasonably, so 20 subdivisions over the length of 300. Actually, we'll make it 30 subdivisions over 300, so every 10 units. And we can make as many as we like. I'll make the floor even bigger. And let's just add on a random, and we'll even add in some rotation, spin them, get a bit of an angle. Okay, cool. So those are going to be our worms. We might as well make multiple. I don't see why not. Put those into a connect, and don't weld, and save. Again, if you want to support Rocket Lasso, you can get access to all these scene files on Patreon for reverse engineering purposes. Let's call it Worm Twitch. Worm Twitch. Boom. Okay. So we can run the simulation. We have to run the simulation on the top level of anything. So it would run here. So we'll say rope simulation. They're 10 units apart, so we could make this up to 10 thick, although that might mean 5 thick. And let's immediately throw that into a sweep. And the sweep will be fed a end side, and the end side will be set to 8 sides with a radius of 5. So those are currently our worms, one slightly intersecting the ground, but we'll just see how that works. Hit play, and in theory, those will all just fall. And I suppose we should make a collider tag on that cube. Scoot that down a hair, right click, simulation, collider, save. Okay, well, let's let them fall. We should also change the color. Gotta make them warm colored. A little more red. Yeah. Okay. So drop those. There we go. Little worms. Okay. So now we need to make them twitch. If you have a more specific behavior, you gotta tell me the super duper specific one. But for now, let's just try getting away with doing some like tiny forces. So I'm thinking, let's make a turbulence. And you said twitch, so I'm taking that literally. Forces turbulence, and we're going to give it a very tiny scale, and I'm going to give it a strength of like 500. Okay, so this crazy strong. Now, I imagine these are going to immediately like explode or fly out. Okay, they're actually, it's nowhere near as strong as I thought it'd be. So you see, all of them are definitely kind of wiggling around, and honestly, it's like even here, because I've got this relatively small scale, that might automatically do a pretty good job of giving them life. Like, yeah, they're kind of look like they're just wriggling. So surprisingly working pretty well there. So yeah, if you just want some wriggling worms, like that's working surprisingly well. Um, yeah. Okay. So we got wriggling worms. In fact, I'll even save that one and then move on to more, just because that's a good spot to leave that particular one. So here's what my thought was going to be. Let's make that way stronger again. So I'm gonna say like 5,000. Um, I'm kind of prepared for these to like. Okay, so now they're going super crazy, like not super controllable. But now the thought is we go into fields and we give it a mask of some sort. So I give it a random field. There's going to be a little invisible for us to, we're not going to be able to see it very well. But the thought here is if we pick a noise, and even if I leave it on Perlin noise, and we start making the noise, how do we want to do it? I might even leave it default, and we'll set the speed up to something that's not that fast. So it's just 100. So all very reasonable. And then separately, I'll make a curve. What I can do is drag this over, and I'm really, really clamping out all of the values. So now only if we get to this very extreme does anything get applied. So now, in theory, only a very small sliver of this is actually going to cause it to happen. Now, we are up here in this darker region, which might not happen in general. So we might not see like anything here, but let's just see what happens. Let them all fall and settle. I just want to see if we see something. Okay, we are seeing a little something every once in a while. Yeah, you see that? See that little twitch? See that little twitch? So that's essentially what I'm going for. Now, what I might do is something a little bit more like this. So we put a bump in the middle. So we're a lot more likely to hit those values, but we're going to have it pretty slender here. So essentially it'll pass through very, very quickly. And let's see what that does. Okay. Well, now it's happening so often that you see it's almost constantly twitching, even if it's only for a moment. So I think we do need to be near-ish one of the extremes, maybe not quite as extreme as we were. Okay, so once they settle in, let's see how often they're twitching. Yeah, I mean, so now they're a little bit more so like lurching every once in a while. Now, there's a lot of variables that can go in beyond this. We could pinch this in even further, so it happens for a shorter amount of time. And I could keep scooting it further to the right to make it happen more or less often. We could add a quantize in here and lower that down to 1. So now it's either full power or no power. There's no in between. And then we can start increasing the power more to see how far we can push the twitch. Because essentially right now it's only happening in every once in a while on a particular point. You see, like that worm hasn't really moved at all. And suddenly you get that little wiggle in the center. So yeah, these being alive on this kind of this other method, instead of constantly wiggling, occasionally getting like this twitch. So now we can, I don't know how far we can push this until it's going to like freak out, but I'm going to make it 10 times stronger again. And let's see what that does. Oh, look at that. Okay, so that's actually doing an excellent job twitching, where it's like something happens and they're all like, and then they kind of flop back down again. What I'd like to do is have that happen even less frequently. So that mostly means going back into my curve and pulling into these regions that the noise just doesn't get there as often. And honestly, a little movement here could make a significant change. Yeah, already I feel them moving a lot less. Wink, wink, twitch, twitch, twitch. Yeah, there we go. It's like, I mean, there's some pretty good life in there. And you see, like, occasionally they're just not moving, like, barely at all. And then other times they're suddenly, like, super flopping all over the place by this, like, really, like, harsh twitch. Now we could add additional variables in there. There's a lot of variables actually that could have dramatic effects on this. One of the most major ones is under our rope, the bendiness. Right now we've got pretty much the most minimal bendiness possible. So if I put it down to 0, you're going to see that when a twitch happens, that's almost like a large section of the worm, if not the entire worm, is having to respond. The entire thing is kind of twitching as a whole. But as we add more bendiness in, let's say like 55, I don't know how well that will update. Now individual, you see it's a lot bendier, which means it can get knotted up a lot more. But also I think it means if we see a worm settle, that you see like this back half like barely move, and suddenly the head got whipped way up, but the other parts are not immediately responding. So it's more like a whip effect through it. And right there, you see that part got yanked, but this part's not really being affected at all. So the bendiness is going to be a major variable in that, and you can find anywhere in between. Dropping it to 5 will hopefully mean that it's like there can't be too bendy, it's not too sharp, but you will still get a lot of independent parts on the overall length of the worm. To be honest, I kind of liked it at 0 or at 1, where it's just like the entire worm kind of will suddenly get this this lurch. But it does definitely feels like a twitch, because a lot of the time they're just sort of laying there. And then of course you can combine these. We could put one turbulence that's always applying a little bit of wiggle to keep them alive, and every once in a while they do like a bigger movement. So sometimes we get more speed, sometimes we get less, but let's try adding in some more worms here. So there's 4 times as many. Some might be intersecting, but ropes should just detangle from them. Yeah, ropes definitely detangle from themselves. Not a dramatic change in speed, so I kind of feel like we should add more in. Bing, 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 bing. More worms. Let them go. There's not going to be many intersections. So yeah, you see some initial kind of explosion there. That's just them intersecting at the beginning. And now we've got this horrible writhing mass of worms. Honestly, I did have the turbulence. It still had some scale, but honestly, we can go down to 0, and now there would definitely be, I don't even think it's going to look visually different because it was so small already. But yeah, now every twitch is a unique direction with a unique amount of power. So, there should be no overlap between them. So that's working quite well. I don't know how far we can push this until the whole thing starts breaking down. But let's throw more at it. Why not? Can't have too many worms. Oh my god! Look at all the worms. Oh, that's horrible. All you have to do is like, if I had this not, I guess because of the way they're moving, we might also get triggered here a little bit. But just making them this color goes such a long way to being like, ew. But yeah, just how they're like lashing around, like rising into the air. It's kind of horrible in an amazing way. And I do like making these types of behaviors. Like there's a lot of cool stuff you can do. I'm trying to think, but it's like in theory you could make a rig that they would want to kind of travel forward, and maybe you could have them like slithering a little bit, as well as having these twitches. Yeah, there's always more fun to be had on these types of things. Let's put them into a bowl. We need a bowl of worms here. So simplest bowl is a hemisphere spun around. Actually, I don't want to spin it around, so I'm going to type in transform, and we'll grab a transform geometry, drop it as a child, and I will spin it around. Yeah, this one. I'll spin this around 180. So now I deformed it to be spun around, and then I can deform it to be squished down a little bit. Turn off the ground, and T for scale. And there's a nice bowl. And let's add a simulation collider. It's already getting thickened with a thickness of 1. I'll increase it to 2. It's a triangle mesh, which I think is what we need. And then I'll save our bowl of worms. Let's turn on some SSAO so we get some contact points. And let's make them look slimy. Just a little slimy. Bring them up quite almost fully red, but not quite. Maybe we can go a little paler, a little more red, a little paler. Yeah, we had some variation there, but let's just do that. And now it's pretty shiny. Maybe make it a little rougher. And I don't think SSAO shows up in the viewport. Yeah, it doesn't show up in the viewport at all. So I might, just for the viewport fun, add in a little bit of emission. And I guess we'll make that red too, just to give them like a little bit of like transparency vibe. Yeah. Cool. Turn off the save frames just so we can see more of the viewport. Save, run. Twitchy worms, twitchy worms. Some of these might start shoving some of the lower ones down, but like already the life that you see there, it's pretty good. Ah, look at him go. Nasty. Why don't we send this out to the picture viewer? Hopefully it shows up well enough. Save, resolution's fine. All frames. Don't worry about saving. Viewport renderer. Copy the effects from the viewport. Under filter, I'll load my personal preset, which just gets rid of all the stuff. Except for the HUD. I always forget the HUD. Okay, what else do we want to do to these worms? Yeah, spending a little bit of time getting a proper gross material in there would be fun. But let's see if there's official things. Let's see. Let's see. And they might be twitching a little too much. It seems like it's really fast when we go to play this back in real time. But let's see. Oh, man, they're really moving. Oh, look at them go. Oh, that's wonderfully horrible. Look at them. They're alive. Tell me those worms aren't alive. No keyframes. No keyframes, everybody. A bowl of living worms just by occasionally having something poke at them for these random directions. I don't know that worms flail about quite like this, but we could lower the power, obviously. Pushing it a little bit to the extreme here. Also, I could you saw I put the quantize in there, so it's kind of like full power or not full power. But if I took off that quantize, then the little kicks here would be stronger or weaker. So it's like every once in a while they could do a powerful twitch, but most of the time they would be doing like smaller wiggles. Yep, twitching, nothing else. Okay, excellent. Oh, with mix animations. I don't even know how I go about doing a mix animation. I know mix animation is a thing. I've done it before, but not in years. And it's just not the way I'd go about even doing something like this. They're wonderfully horrible. This is going to run really slow, but I want to try something. If instead of a sweep, what if we fed them into a volume builder and volume mesher? And let's sample this every 0.5 with a radius of 10. And this radius will be down to 7, maybe even 6. We'll move the material onto that. So now they can blob into each other. Actually, with the radius I set, maybe we should drop it down to 5. So I'll drop that down to 4, drop this down to about 5. Actually, we'll do 6 so they do blob into each other a little bit. And I don't think... Yeah, that doesn't change anything. No need to sample more than need be. Let's just see what happens if it's like a writhing mass that blobs into each other. Definitely be a little bit... Actually, no, not too bad as far as speed, considering how much we're throwing at that. Right now, they mostly look individual. It's hard to lock in, but I think once they all pile up, then they're going to blob into each other really nicely. And I could, maybe some modifiers on there to make them blob more would do the effect I'm picturing a little bit more. Oh, but yeah, look at that goop. Like it's mostly separate, but you can definitely feel them merging in a hair. I kind of want this like angry writhing mass going on. So that's mostly just going to be this volume stuff. Simplest is going to be to like increase the radius a little bit more. But the primary effect is going to be, and these unfortunately make it run a lot slower, but if we were to dilate and smooth some, so if I increase it via dilating, and then we run a smooth after the fact, and we're going to really lessen the effect. How far down can we push it? I don't want, essentially, I want to always at least see the individual worm still. Maybe I can dilate some more. Yeah, and then smooth. That's actually pretty good. All right. We could put a smoothing deformer on there, but that would kind of take away from the effect I'm going for here. I keep checking the comments to see if there's any modifications to make. Oh, perfect. Excellent. I'm glad we got something for you. Yeah, a Klingon meal, definitely. Add some salt, make them more twitchy. No, I don't want to torture them. Um, let's see. Travis said he won the last 2 years in a row for the raffle, so he's abstaining. And yet you commented, so now you are eligible. Let me check the Twitch comments, see if there's any here. What MG? I don't. There's a one of the really odd things that MGF at the moment, new shape, movement, form language is being introduced by the tools for C4D by your team at Rocket Lasso. Dom R's new tool set and Mick Hale S's plus plus plus. The whole new set of colors to paint with. It's inspiring. Sorry, I'm not following. And honestly, I actually try very hard not to be plugged in and watching what other people are doing because I want Rocket Lasso to always be doing their own thing. So like I don't know what other people are doing for plugins and whatnot. We just make our own thing. Fish food, now some liquid. Yeah, this is without liquids. Now this is what I was going for. I wanted this blobby writhing mass that like these little angry tentacles kind of every once in a while rise up out of it. And if we could push it further by making some smaller ones or putting an initial layer of liquid down here so it would kind of fill out that form a little bit more. But yeah, these wiggling and writhing on top of each other, that's fun. Oh man, yeah, look at that. That's wonderful. That's wonderful and horrible at the same time. That's a good one. That's a good one. Fun questions today. We're able to tackle these kind of like weirder, smaller rigs that we can explore and make weird stuff from. Yeah, in theory, we could be making. I'm trying to think. Could we make these be different colors because they all got connected? I mean, there might be ways of making them be different colors, but as far as like individually be different colors, it might be more challenging. I like it. Be fun to drop something else in there that's heavier. It looks like it's slowly getting kind of pulled in as they writhe around. Um, yeah, I mean, we could just keep going on that forever. Obviously, it's a fun, wacky combination here. Let's cram in way more. Yep, now there's an insane amount of them. I'm gonna give it a different name for the worm twitch blob. Nightmare fuel. You're welcome. Let's see. Yep, I don't think there's any specific follow up on this question. Maybe everybody's just too grossed out by it, but I like it. Pete, I like the worms. Um, very spicy. Yep. Yeah, those are some spicy noodles. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Rigging this with bones. See that's way more challenging. So Totarus is saying that if you did make these as rigged worms, first of all, it's gonna be really hard to make one collide with another one. But even making them twitch is gonna be hard because you have to imagine that the the body of the worm or the noodle or the snake or whatever this is a series. It's a series um of joints going down the body. And if you take one and you rotate it, there's nothing to counter rotate it. So it's something just going to like have random parts like rise up and flop back down again. In a second, I'll show you a quick demo of, they look like they were flavored with flaming hot Cheetos. They've kind of got that neon red thing going on. Yeah, the adding more, that is a plus. I'm glad I did. Look at some of them are draping over the edge. Wonderful. What have we done? What a way to end the season. I like it. I'm too entertained by that. Anyway, that's saved. Let's open up a new file. Just as a quick thing to show, if we were to make a joint, what I would suggest you do would be a spline joint chain. So make that low poly, subdivide that more. So that'd be kind of like your overall shape. Really don't care about the caps. And then you would make an entire joint chain here. So under character, joint, copy. Actually, we need a spline anyway, so let's just make a spline. I'm going to T for scale until I see the spline emerge. Okay, it's coming out from the side. Change that to BZ. Keep scaling. Set it to center. Keep scaling. There we go. So I'm making it approximately that length. And I'm going to subdivide that. I don't know how many times. Let's say 10. Make that editable. And now I can make as many of these joints in a line as I want. That is currently 8. Should I make 10? Maybe I should make 10. So I can right click, add a rigging IK spline. It needs the splines. We'll feed that, and then the end of the joint chain. So we feed that, and now let's hide that temporarily. And you're going to see, did it not like the joint chain because I gave them all 0 distance? Oh, actually, I just thought we probably need this to be equal. There we go. So now you see the joint chain is matching that. So because we have a joint, I'm sorry, we have a spline with 10 points on it. I don't know if we actually match them up perfectly. I might be off by 1, but it's fine. If I click to make handles, and I make 10 handles, so I make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, which is how many there actually are. And I say create. Now we've got all these nulls that also are matching where that spline is. So here's a basic idea. Let's grab our joint chain and our geometry, and I'll say character bind. So now in theory that's been welded together. If I grab one of these and I pull, you see the entire thing moves. It's a little chunky, but we could smooth that out in various means. But the point here is if I were to grab one of these middle ones, I could suddenly pull that up and you can see that the rest of it is left behind. And because I said to equal the length, it'll actually, I think it's mostly stretching. And then that's not quite welded to the end. I'm not going to get into the super specifics, but you can see now that I am able to kind of pull the middle of it up and like twitch one little part of it, because it's not just a joint chain. It's a joint chain that has to do whatever the spline says to do. So yeah, grabbing any body part here, I could move it and have that change. Keep in mind inside here, there's going to be the handles. Right now, this spline is probably a linear spline. If we change it to be a B spline, or even better, a Bezier spline, we can go back inside of the tag. And now you see each of these have a depth, which unfortunately, there's not a great way of selecting all of them at the same time. So a little bit manual here. But you see, if I start increasing this, we're getting some more curvature. Actually, oh yeah, the spline would need to be subdivided more, because you can see the spline is curving, but the joint chain is not, which honestly, because the way we set it up, is not hard to change. Let's go add more. And I'm going to add more. And then I'm going to add, it's getting really long, but actually, yeah, it's going to be hard to add more. I'm going to select that. We do have to debind it, so I'll delete that. Delete that. And now grab the tag and say that the last joint is the new last joint. That will re-stretch it along. And we still got all those same, we didn't actually modify the number of points on the spline, which is actually the important control here. Which null is it? This one. Okay, let me zero that out. So that's back to 0. So if I rebind to this again, select all of those, select this, simulation, not simulation, character bind, that's rebound. So now I can grab any one of these, and now there's extra joints. So you see it's a smoother transition between there. So I can stretch this out. So we can pull that up, and we can pull this up, and shape it however we want now that it's along a spline. So yeah, different various ways of doing that. And of course, you could now be UV mapping and everything along the worm, which could have been a big old fancy worm model. But anyway, that's as far as I can go on that one. Worm model. Luckily for all of you, I kept the render going the whole time. So let's enjoy this one time. Yeah. Did you ever make the? Oh, that's what I'm thinking of. The flaming hot mac and cheese that you can buy. Um, oh, they're starting to push each other through the bowl. No. So yeah, my flaming hot mac and cheese has come alive, and I made it with spaghetti. Okay, so I think it's time to do one more giveaway. So let's see. We're gonna do the opposite this time. We're gonna say YouTube. Okay, everybody in YouTube, you're allowed to spam. Go, 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 go! Spam, spam, spam. And let me clear this out, and I'll switch the screen in a moment. It's funny because there's like a good 10-second yeah, about 10 seconds before somebody responds there. So worm dinner, spam. Um, anyway, yeah, we're gonna let that go for a few seconds, and nobody on. You can still chat on Twitch, but no spamming on Twitch. Your chance for spam will come in a second. Spam, spam, fried worm, spam, spam, spam. But yeah, wait, and then while everybody's typing, let's just take a little more time to enjoy our worm dinner. Very fun. I like it. All right, I'm gonna copy and paste. Here we go. Select all, copy, paste, scrub to the top, and then randomize. All right. So remember, whoever's here is going to have to respond in the chat. If they are not actively here anymore, then they are disqualified, and we re-roll. So here we go. Randomize for YouTube. 3, 2, 1, go. And up at the top we have. It looks like it's Totrus. Excellent. Totrus, I think, is new, and this was the first time that they ever asked a question. So yeah, cheers. I love when new people come and hang out and that they get to win. So yeah, Totrus, I don't know if you're on the Slack channel. That's the best way to get a hold of me. But somehow get a hold of me, and then we'll exchange stuff, and we'll find out which plugin you'd like to get. Okay, now Twitch, it's your turn. Start spamming on Twitch. Yeah, yeah, that's why I don't give away a specific plugin, because a lot of people who are watching the streams have supported Rocket Lasso and have picked up like at least one tool or a couple. There's people I know people who are like, oh, I don't necessarily even have a specific use for your tool. I just love your stuff so much that I just buy all of your plugins whenever they come out. It's like, well, that's cool, but that means I can't give away one. Actually, those people usually just give it away to a friend, which is cool. All right, let's let it go a little bit. Just called to say hello. Excellent. Phil, not spam. Flaming hot mac and cheese. All right, here we go. Cool. All right, I'm gonna select it. Select all. Copy. Okay, it is copied. Going over here. Select all. Delete. Paste. And scroll to the top. Okay, we're up at the top. And time to randomize. 3, 2, 1. Randomize. Final winner is going to be Fluff. Fluff wins. I like the top message was with love from Ukraine, so that's very sweet. But Fluff was the topmost name. So excellent. Thank you very, very much, everybody. Everybody go. And yeah, Totorus did reply there. You could, if you want, you can also just, Totorus, you can also just message the tech support, and then that will get to me if you want. I don't have my personal, or I don't have my email public, just the tech support form. That way we don't get spammed by a million spam bots. Let's see, wait, who won? Fluff won. Fluff, you have to reply in Twitch or we're going to re-roll. Are you still here, Fluff? Fluff, are you here? I'm scrolling back to see when their most recent message was, and it looks like it was back a little ways. Scrolling down. Uh-oh. Well, okay, we're getting close to a re-roll here. Close to a re-roll. All right, Fluff, you got 10 seconds. Otherwise, we're re-rolling. 5 seconds. Let's go here. 3 seconds. 2, 1. Nope, no Fluff. All right, missed out. Sorry, Fluff. Too late. We're re-rolling. And just for fun, I'm going to copy the text again. So anybody who just did a couple comments in there, then you got a little bit more in there. Select all, delete, paste, scroll to the top, and Ready? Just making sure. All right, we're re-rolling. Here we go, everybody. 3, 2, 1. Randomize. Scrub to the top. Sage of Shadow. Not only is it Sage, but Sage twice on the top, and then would also be the 4th place winner. So, and Sage, I don't. Oh, I guess you have been commenting a decent amount, but like not disproportionately. So that's very lucky there. Sage, you win any one Rocket Lasso plugin that you want. And if you somehow already have all of them, then you can save it until we launch a new plugin. So yeah, just message me. Sage, you've already got my email. So yeah, just feel free to email me which plugin you're interested in, and I will send you a thing. Sage, are you not on the beta? Are you not on the beta channel anymore? Do you not already get all the plugins for free? Oh, and you say the new secret one. You don't mean the one I demoed. You mean the unreleased, unmentioned one. That one's going to be a more expensive plugin. I said the new one that I did show off today, that one's going to be a cheaper one because it's very simple. The other one we've been working on for a very long time, and I think is anyway. I don't want to give any weird hints. I don't want to hype it up to a level that it doesn't deserve to be hyped. Yeah. But yeah. Well, if you want to wait for an upcoming one, then you can totally do that. That's cool. Anyway, I think that's going to be the official ending of Rocket Lasso Live Season 7. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming and hanging out episode after episode. If you want to support, of course, the best way to do it is to buy a Rocket Lasso plugin. It's really fun for us to make the plugins. It's amazing to see people use the plugins and make amazing things that they couldn't make otherwise. But if you're not looking for support on plugins, and you can always support by, well, we've actually just got a buy us a coffee on the website if you want. But then there's also just supporting on Patreon when you get access to the live streams sooner. And I do have some free models. You get discounts on all the plugins on there. Actually, if you are supporting on Patreon, they find out about plugins the night before we launch because I always do like this quiet soft launch to make sure everything's working. So yeah, they get a little bit tiny 1 night early access to plugins, discount codes, and of course you get access to, if you're at the engineer tier, you get access to all the scene files that we make, and that's access to 7 seasons worth of scene files. So that's a lot. But anyway, I think that is going to officially wrap this one up. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching, and until next season, bye bye, everybody.